Hey everybody, welcome to week 8. Sorry this is coming a little late. Monday was kind of hectic and I didn't get a chance to sit down and record the video, so wanted to meet with you. So a couple of things you probably recognized is that all of the grades are in. That I think we already had talked about that. If for some reason you have a 0 on a grade for something that you felt like you turned in, make sure that it was named correctly because I may have just not known it was your file. Um, but I think other than last week's discussion, everything should be up and graded now. So let's hop into week 8 here and see what we have on the horizon. Um, so we'll go into the content section. So I know last week was a little bit cramped. So I recognize that some of you are going to be probably still catching up a little bit on the modeling. That's okay. Um, so just you can kind of keep working on that at the same time as you're moving ahead with what we're doing in week 8. So this week is all about materials and texturing and rendering. Right. So if we click on the video lessons, um, we talk about how to that cereal box that you have. How are we going to put a material on that, right? And this is a question that many people have had. It's easy to change the overall color of something, but what if you want a lot more detail, like a texture, right? And a lot of that becomes kind of difficult because what we have to do is wrap that texture around the model in a very specific way. And so we talked about several things this week. First, we talk about image-based lighting, so we can actually start getting a nice render out of Arnold pretty easily. We talk about Arnold materials. So although we have talked about materials in the past, we talk a little bit more about how to do this specifically in Arnold, and how to sort of control the glossiness of it, the specularity, the transparency, in order to start getting a pretty nice looking render. And then when it comes to textures, we have to talk about UVs. And so there's several uh, sections here where we talk about UV unwrapping. So UV unwrapping is essentially taking your 3D model and laying it out flat in a way that allows us to see how we could apply a 2D texture to it. Right? So so these videos hopefully will explain that. I go through the process of UV unwrapping the cereal box, show you a couple of different methods of doing that, and then we talk about how to export that out um, and take it into another program like Photoshop. Photoshop is sort of um, the lowest common denominator of programs you would use for texturing, but it is one that will work in this case. We would probably want to use something. Well, in the future, you'll be using more complex programs like Substance Painter or something like that to get more maps. But this is a way we can sort of align the texture to the cereal, so we get stuff like this cereal box or this milk carton or even this coffee cup that we have in the final piece. And this last video, I talk about, I would really encourage you all, if you can, to render in Arnold for this project, just because we're going to get a really solid render out of that. And more importantly, we can optimize Arnold to be able to render a little faster, right? And so we talk a little bit about that here. Like Arnold will still take longer than like Hardware 2.0, but the render quality is going to be much better. The lighting quality is going to be much better. And so what I do is I talk about how to speed up your render if it's taking forever, right? Or some options that you can use to try to speed up the render a little bit. Um, so that's the video lessons. A couple of things that I will point out. Um, One of the things you're going to be doing in this is texturing your cereal box. So I gave you a whole bunch of cereal box textures, both insides and outsides. And so if you click on the insides, there should be more than 4. What is happening? Oh wait, I'm sorry. No, 4 makes sense for insides. Outsides, there should be more than 4. So we got Captain Crunch and a whole bunch of different ones. This was months of me saving my cereal boxes and um, having friends save their cereal boxes so we could, uh, so you could have some resources to use for this. So these are some image resources you can download. It's pretty big, so you can download them either individually or the entire batch and kind of go through them. I think there's a way we can view this as tiles here. Yeah, there you go. So you can see we have like fronts and backs of these. Um, and so this will give you a starting point on your cereal box. Although you're welcome to use your own design if you want to design your own cereal box. Um, so I also talk about Photoshop in here, but not all of you will have access to Photoshop. So I also talk about Photopea, which is um, a free Photoshop clone on the internet. It's really pretty nice. In terms of things that you have to turn in this week, again, we have a discussion, and it's a little bit lighter. So usually this would fall on spring break or fall break. I'll go ahead and leave that in there, even though it's not accurate. I just didn't take it out. Um, so you don't have replies to post this week. You just have to post a retrospective, right? If I'd have known that the classes were going to be, or that class was going to be canceled last week for Monday and Tuesday, I probably would have switched these two discussions out. But so this is a little bit of an easier one. Hopefully that'll give you some more time to be working on getting caught up from last week. Um, so again, this one doesn't require replies. It just requires you to have an initial discussion post by Sunday. Okay, so this is different than most weeks, um, and you're welcome to reply. You're welcome to have a conversation about it. Um, but basically, this is just uh, Sunday. I'm sorry. What we're going to do is tell us one thing you have really enjoyed about learning to animate in Maya, and one thing that you have really hated about learning to animate in Maya. So just a couple of things you're kind of struggling with, and a couple of things you're kind of enjoying. Right? And again, like every week, we have the option to turn in a revision if you get around to that. Um, so again, we are. I get that working. Again, we are kind of working toward this larger project of the breakfast scene. Get a lot of elements to it, so I would encourage you to try to stay as caught up as you can, and to use this week to kind of catch up on the last 2 weeks. Um, as we move forward, we're going to do some animating on the spoon. We're going to do some animating on having some cereal pour out of the box, and we're going to render. And the idea is to hopefully be done by week 11, so we can use week 11 and 12. Wait, is it week 11 that? Yeah, is when project 2 is done. And so we're going to sort of work a little bit to get week 12 and 13 to get the rigging and animation done, and that way we can hopefully have a good majority of the final project done before we have to leave for Thanksgiving. So let me know if you have questions. I'll be around, and my office hours are still the same, so you feel free to stop by anytime you want to if you have any questions or if you just need help with anything. And hope you have a good week. I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.